Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today, we are covering Dr. Sleep, which came out in 2019. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So,
I had the brilliant idea.
Yeah, thank you to Brutalities for coming up with the perfect pun for this movie, the chiming. It's got black tea, toasted yerba mate, cardamom, ginger, clove, cinnamon, aniseed, chestnut, cinnamon, and spice flavors. And in addition to that, we added some French vanilla creamer, and I put some vanilla syrup. So we will... I know Brutalities has disappointed us in the past with not being super flavorful, so we are hesitantly optimistic. It smells really good.
It tends to be hit or miss.
Yeah.
A lot of them does have really good flavor. It just...
Yeah.
It depends on the tea.
It depends on the tea. And it's like you really have to like play around with the temperature and steeping time and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes. We like
and the amount of
strong
scoops.
tea. Yes. But
we want the flavor to punch us in the face.
yes. Flavor. But for our wonderful tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. Well, so Dr. Sleep, for those who don't know, it's the sequel to The Shining.
Yes.
Where it's about the son, Dan, and Danny. And he is now an adult and is encountering other people with The Shining. And it kind of becomes a weird, like, psychic, like, cat and mouse thing. So, yep, that's all. Yep. So, for entertainment, I will say I wasn't sure what to expect from this movie, but it wasn't a lot. But this movie really not just exceeded my expectations, but took it in a way that I didn't really think about them taking it. It's similar to The Shining, where it's not really that scary per se. It's more like a psychological thing.
And it has some tense moments, too.
Yeah, it does have some tense moments. I will say, I'll go ahead and give the rating. So I personally rate it like an 8. Like, this is going to be a go-to movie for me, for sure. And despite it being 3 hours long, I really enjoy the time that they take to show, like, Danny, like, with his struggles and him kind of, like, trying to overcome them. And then it skips, like, 8 years later when he's, like, past his, like, drinking. But it like, really sets up the movie really well. And then whenever it gets to the more exciting parts and then the scenes with Abra, like, it really does a good job in, like, making it feel dangerous. And, but it also makes the bad guys really fascinating, too. But yeah, it's like, I really enjoyed what they did with it. I will say that I thought it was also interesting how they combined elements of the book and then the elements of the original Shining movie, where it's like you can see they're still kind of leaning at, like, oh, here's, Kubrick's film, like, you know it. But then they also bring up, like, the boiler, which really wasn't brought up much at all.
They mentioned it in passing in the original movie.
Yeah, but in the actual novel, like, that was, like, a huge point of the novel.
Like, it had to be dealt with every day, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so it's like them mixing those two actually worked really, really well. It like, there were peaks of artfulness to it, but it was really more a not psychological film, I guess. I would put it as. But
it was leaning somewhat toward creature feature, almost, or supernatural.
Yeah, I would definitely say supernatural.
It did have some of the ghosts from the original movie.
Yes. And he got to confront his father, which was, and it's also really interesting to see Jack as a ghost.
Yeah.
And how he was not really remembering or understanding, like, what Danny was talking about. And then the stuff with the bad guys, and then them, like, inhaling the Shining. That was also really interesting. I don't know. It's like this movie. Yeah, they called it Steam. Yeah. There's just, it's like the characters, they do so well. Like, all of the characters, I feel like they evolve very well. There's a gnat in here. How dare you? Not Auntie, not today. And then, but
face, not today.
They also make the stakes feel, like, really high. Having it come back to the Overlook Hotel was really interesting and made a lot of sense. And it also gave, it's like, was kind of a sad ending, but also gave Danny closure. It kind of, like, came around full circle. But and the pacing felt pretty decent. I mean, there definitely were slower moments, but overall, like, the movie didn't feel like a 3-hour movie. Yeah. It felt like a 2-hour movie. It did. But the extra hour, like, I really didn't notice that much.
It was necessary. Yeah. I can't really think of anything that they could cut out. Yeah,
like, they did such a good job with just giving you the most vital information without harping on it too much. I really like the actress that they had to play his mother. Like, they really did a good job in finding actors and actresses that replaced the, the original cast.
That were close enough.
Yeah.
Because obviously they can't get all of the original cast.
But yeah, I can just keep harping on this all day long. But point is, I feel like overall they did a fantastic job on this movie. The actors are solid. The pacing is solid. How they had the characters, like, grow and stuff was solid. Like, it is a good movie. It's a great movie.
So this was my second time watching it. And honestly, the more times I've watched it, I've actually seen it another time since watching it for the podcast. The more I watch it, the more I enjoy it. It really draws you into the story. It's great casting. It's good effects. It's an interesting story. There's good character development. The conversations really flow and feel organic between the different characters. Nothing really seems forced or robotic, anything like that. They bring in a lot of elements from the original movie.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of symmetry.
Yeah.
And it's nice how they continue it and they expand on it.
Yeah.
In addition to it. So I really, really enjoyed this movie and I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's really well done. I feel like they might have gotten a better casting choice for the father's ghost, maybe, but that's a big maybe, honestly. And he was the only one I was kind of like, maybe a different one for him.
I felt like he looks pretty
wise,
close.
He did, but it was mostly like the voice and the mannerisms that I feel like weren't quite there.
Okay.
But the scenes in and of themselves were really good. So it didn't take away that much from it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Scatman Crothers' replacement was good. And yeah, all of them were great. Even the ones they got for like the ghosts and all, you knew who they were.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really well done. I'm glad that they paid attention to a lot of those details. The fact that they brought in that same number for the room every time was great. The lore for the monsters were interesting. They were almost vampires / soul suckers, like soul eaters. So it was different, and I liked it. And I love that there were different kinds of shine.
And it was interesting that, like, them causing pain, like, it, like, helped bring it out, and it also seemed to make it, like...
It enhanced it.
Yeah.
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 There were some scenes that were super hard to watch, especially as a parent. Honestly, there were a couple in particular that I really wanted to, after watching them, just go hug my girl tight and not let go. Ever.
Was it when they had the boy?
That was one of them. But also when they took the little girl toward the beginning, Violet.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of frustrating scenes too. They show you enough of the character without getting too bogged down in the nitty-gritty that you really care when one of the good ones die. You're kind of like, yeah, when one of the bad guys die.
Yeah, like, I can't believe they killed off the father, and then
that made me so sad.
Friend, I forgot his name. Billy?
Yeah, I think.
Billy?
I think.
Oh, no, but it helped the guy that helped him get the job.
His, sponsor and,
Yes. He did that.
He was such a good friend, and he was just there, and it was a crazy, crazy story, admittedly, that the guy was telling him, and he's just like, okay, we're gonna go do this, and either one of two scenarios is gonna happen. Either there's gonna be nothing there, and my friend is just crazy, but I can work with that. Like, we can work through that, it's gonna be fine. But we'll get this out of the way and we can start the steps for getting past whatever this is. Or, you're right, and I really don't want that scenario. But I'm in it now. And he was like a true ride or die, honestly. Like, that's such a good friend right there.
Yeah.
That was a whole lot of crazy being thrown at him in the middle of the night, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And
he was just on board, and it was really, really sad when he died. Completely avoidable too, by the way, but we'll get to that later. But he was such a good character. The dad also didn't necessarily have to die, but movies got a movie.
Yeah.
And different people, different choices. My husband and I were both of the same opinion that he should have just slit the guy's throat then and there without announcing himself and been done with it. But but different people, different choices, Anyway.
Remind me to never become your enemy.
The dude broke into his house to take his daughter.
I know. But sometimes you talk and I'm scared.
Well, there's a new mug. New shirt, new mug, new hat. Sometimes you talk and I'm scared. Perfect. Thanks for that. No, seriously, the dude broke into his house to take his little girl.
I know. Not saying he wouldn't have deserved it. But yeah.
The only question is how long it takes before he dies, in my mind. Like, how drawn out, how painful. That's the only thing. Now, if they have powers, and I know they have powers, which they told him, it's gonna be quick, because I don't want to risk it. Just saying. We don't play down here. Anyway, let's go ahead to the realism. While you're nice and scared.
Yeah. Well.
Don't mess with Mama. You'll get your ass kicked.
Well, I initially gave realism a 3.5, but now I'm like,
It was really well done.
It was really well done. And the fact that they, like, dig into, like, Danny's character, like, you know, him becoming an alcoholic like his father, unfortunately, like, tracks.
That's
how it tends to happen. But then also, like, him talking to, I forgot the old man's name.
Scatman Crothers' replacement.
Yeah.
I forget his name, too.
But, like, him talking to him, being like, you know, you can put, you know, stuff that happened from the hotel in, you know, the boxes, but you can't, put memories. And it's like, I thought that was really important because it's saying that, like, you know, every action that you take, you have to,
There's
a
a consequence
for the rest of your life.
And you got to just pick the actions that you can live with.
Yeah. But it's like, and I love the struggles that they have Danny do or go through. What? Yeah, it's good, right?
Good.
Yeah, I'm almost halfway done with mine. I'm like, oh man.
Absolutely. Good job, Brutalities.
Now we
Good Shining. Good one.
It sounds like you're talking to a kid being like, good job.
Okay, but we were just saying earlier.
I know. But it's like
this is a good one.
It is good. It is good. Though we did do two scoops.
But we also tend to both prefer strong teas. Again, we like the flavor to punch you in the face.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good though. It's really good. Like I can really taste the spices along with the vanilla.
The French vanilla creamer really is a good pairing with it, I think.
Yeah,
I think that also helped.
Yeah.
It pairs really, really well.
Yep.
So just to take that tea break, you know.
But and then like the father's reaction where he's like, I don't know, but then like the daughter like does the mind thing with him and he's like, okay. Like
I wasn't entirely sure why he was so hesitant to believe it, because he had seen some crazy things. He had seen a lot of crazy things before then. Her, the piano playing itself, while she was dreaming about playing the piano.
That is true.
The spoons all over the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then falling
like,
when she said, abracadabra.
Yeah. Like, okay, so I'm gonna bump it up to a 4. But yeah, like the character reactions were great. Really the only person that I wasn't completely on jiving with was the main like bad villain
Rose
person. Yeah.
Rose the Hat.
Some of her reactions, I was like, okay. Like, especially, like, with her family getting killed, like, some of her reactions didn't seem like they were, like, I don't know.
Which ones?
I don't know. It's just, like, in general, like, I don't know. Like,
she was screaming in anguish, so...
Well, I know.
I'm not sure which one you meant.
I
thought it was very convenient, though, how they all went poof, and there were just clothes left.
Yeah, that was very convenient.
It was very convenient and very nice, because, you know, then you don't have to explain to the sheriff why they're, you know...
That was my thought, too.
Dozen bodies laying around there, all with gunshot wounds, and you got gunshot residue on your hands.
Unfortunately for their friend, they're not so lucky about.
Know? Yeah, that was unfortunate. But you can say, you know, that was a suicide. And that tracks, because that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, and then if they did the projectile, like,
is what happened.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And unfortunately, I mean, he was several years sober, but
Yeah.
he might not have had alcohol in his system, but it could have contributed to his depression. Yeah. If they went that way.
Right, yeah.
Just saying.
I guess what I'm trying to say about Rose is she exuded a little bit too much I'm a villain, like
super into her villain
role.
era.
Yeah. It just seemed like she leaned slightly too hard into it. But like I said, this is really just me like nitpicking. Because like I said, we both really like this movie. It's extremely well done. But out of the whole cast, at least for me, she was the one that seemed to stick out the most. And it was because of her like leaning into the whole villain thing a little bit, maybe too much. Almost to the point where it's like if she had leaned any harder, it would have been like more not as serious. I don't know. But like I said, that's just nitpicking and me. That's what I got.
I give this one... Oh, so good. This one's hard to rate. It's really hard to rate. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5, though. Honestly, like the interactions all make sense. The character development all makes sense. The effects were really good. There wasn't like too many cheesy effects like you often see in this type of movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this is how to do like a psychic, psychological type movie.
Oh yeah. My husband, who doesn't really tend to care for horror movies and all, was super into this one and was sucked into the story.
I'm super tempted to tell my husband, hey, we're going to sit down and watch this movie.
Yeah. Like, he was trying initially to do something else on the computer in the same room, and he got drawn in and wasn't dealing with the computer at all. He just, like, brought his chair over and everything was watching it. So we had to stop it at one point, and he's like, do not watch the rest without me.
That's a great sign. Says that.
Yeah, that's a great sign. So it was really, really well done. I can see them getting away with it more in earlier times, especially when the movie starts in like the 80s and all. Yes. But in today's times, or like 2010, 2011, around when a lot of the bulk of the movie was taking place, like I want to say it was 2011 that they said when they started coming after Abra.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was around that time. Then there weren't as many cameras as there are today, but I feel like they would still be more of a thing.
Yeah.
And it would be harder to get away with taking children.
Well, if I recall at that time, God, do you realize that that's like 20 years ago or whatever? But anyways, the cameras were more in the inner cities, like, and they're more at like
years ago, but you know, it's like 10 to 15.
But more in the inner city and more at major like intersections, things like that. So it's like as long as they were kind of on the outskirts of that, they would be somewhat.
Which I can get if they stuck to more of the rural places, but they would go just wherever they sensed one.
Right. Yeah.
Which would potentially also take them to cities.
Yeah, so they didn't really talk about how they handled those different scenarios.
They did mention that they had connections in, I think they said NSA.
And I do
And
remember,
other
was it Danny that brought up that, like, the reason why
they're
they can't
rich
go to
and they're
the
connected.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense if they feed on quote unquote steam or shining, then they wouldn't necessarily need to eat. But then we see her in a grocery store. So
Yeah, I
was confused by that. And I'm
Maybe
like,
they eat
do
out of
you
convenience,
eat or just out of habit, maybe? And we see them eating popcorn at the theater at one point too.
Yeah.
So like, do they need to eat? Or do they eat just because they're used to it from when they were human and it's kind of just a habit now? Or they eat it because they miss the taste, but they don't necessarily require food? That was a little vague and unclear.
Yeah.
I do like when they would be in different people's minds, the different landscapes and the layouts. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting. The box concept, like the locked cases, was really interesting. And I loved how they ended up being basically like suitcases, like old suitcases. And each one was different for each coast. Yeah. That was really cool. I don't understand how he was able to get the boiler up and running after that many years, that a few decades. Yeah. At that point on the first try with no maintenance or anything like that. Like they left the place to rot. Like,
I'm kind
sure
of
how that worked.
And sorry, this is just a plot hole from the original Shining movie. It's like, you know, in the novel, the boiler like blowing up like the hotel or like severely damaging it. I could understand them not having enough money to like renovate it. But in the second movie, it
was intact.
Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, this movie combines the elements of the book as well as the movie. So I'm assuming in this instance, we're assuming that, like, the hotel was shut down due to the boiler.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the boiler room seemed pretty intact, and the boiler itself was intact.
It seemed completely intact.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of want to read a novel to see if the boiler
read them
is
together.
even. I have read The Shining, and it's a lot more psychological, and you have to be very awake to read it because it kind of drags, but it is worth the read, and
which makes
it has
sense.
Good payoff,
I mean, they were sitting there isolated for months.
Yeah, it's very much like you within like Jack's mind.
Yeah. And
then him interacting with the ghosts and stuff. But it's mainly like Jack's mind. And I mean, being in his mind, you're like, he is a douchebag. He is a douchebag. Like, no wonder he goes psycho and starts like trying to come after his family.
He had a darkness in him.
Yeah, you get to read him going through the darkness. But yeah.
And I do also like that they make mention of that, that people have both light and dark.
Yeah.
It's not just one or the other. Clearly the people that are in Rose's band are definitely more dark than light. They obviously care for each other. You see that. But we don't even know a lot of the caravan's names.
Yeah, they don't. They're definitely more like side characters.
Oh yeah. So
like after when they showed so many of them die, I'm like, I didn't even realize there were that many.
Right? Right? And it feels like they change in number.
Yeah.
Like sometimes there's only a few. Like there were just a small handful of them almost when the grandfather, quote unquote, was dying.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole bunch coming out in the woods. Like,
yeah. I don't know.
Were some of them just out for the night and not realize that he was dying? Or cycling, as they called it. I thought that was really interesting, too, the effects that they used when they were dying. That was really good. And I love how Dan called them out on their arrogance and said that it did make sense, which it does. If you live for that long, and you can heal from pretty much anything, just about, just by getting more shining or more steam, then it would stand to reason that they're so arrogant. They feel like they're above everything and that not much can kill them. So they don't really...
Yeah.
They don't really think about small things like seatbelts that are kind of important.
I thought that was really interesting that's how... It's like, that's a weakness that he exploited.
Yes.
And it's like, you never would have, like,
so
thought
smart.
about... Yeah.
Also, though, you put a little girl in a lot of danger there because even with a seatbelt or 2 seatbelts, like it seemed to be for her, that would suck.
Yeah.
And
especially with no
I don't
airbags.
think any airbags went off.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a bit of a problem. The car should not have passed inspection. Should not have been street legal.
You can, if the car's old enough, you can drive a car without airbags, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
I wouldn't recommend it. Definitely not safe. Especially if you're trying to keep the kid that you took alive. But, you know, just a small nitpicky thing there. The biggest thing I had was the boiler. It just didn't make sense there.
Yeah, I can see that.
Personal differences with the dad for the way he just, like, announced himself to the bad guy with the ability.
Yeah.
That was trying to take his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I can see that this movie might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think overall, like, especially if you, if you go into it not expecting like another artful film and you're just going to ride the wave of the movie and you appreciate like long, like, character exploration, things like that, then you'll definitely really enjoy this movie.
And you get to see Danny and how he uses his abilities later on and how he gives them peace at the end at the hospice place.
Yeah. I will say, and this is on par though for Stephen King, is the name of the movie. Like, that's just, I mean, it's definitely an important part of the movie, but it's very minor in the overall story. But that's kind of on par for Stephen King for him to name books after like small things. Not always, but yeah. But thank you for joining us today, and we'd be really interested to know what you thought of the movie, for sure. Like, do you feel like they did the balance really well? Do you wish they would have kept it more on the artful style like Kubrick did? I feel like it's very difficult to replicate what Kubrick did.
It is.
And it would probably feel like a cheap, rehash.
I love that they brought the maze back into it.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that was really cool. But I feel like they respectfully brought in those artful elements.
They did.
Without, like, trying to, try and do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Which empty one was your favorite or most interesting to you?
Empty one?
Yeah, the soul eaters.
Oh. I liked Rose's, like, main partner dude.
The crow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was interesting.
He was interesting, and so was Snakebite.
Yeah. That was really interesting, too.
I forgot to mention this on the realism thing. They all have abilities and all. Why wouldn't you wait until she go poof? Until you, like, walk up and make sure the other dude's okay. Yeah. That was the only reason the guy died. Only reason why he died. Why he didn't make it to the end of the movie.
Yeah, unfortunately. But if you would like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment or join our Discord server. And if you'd like to keep up to date with our content, you can find our link tree listed below.
If you'd like to support us monetarily, we have our Teespring and PayPal. And you can find all of those sites mentioned linked below. But until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy. Bye!